Okay, and we are live now, starting segment number 10 out of the 12 segments of the Worldwide Peace Wave, 24-hour Peace Wave. We have just heard from a number of great contributions throughout Southeast Asia. We are now moving towards Central Asia, including a number of different countries in the region. We have a couple of speakers. Not sure who is starting for us, if that will be Mazhar, if you're coming on, or maybe it's
Yeah, Sean. A very good afternoon from here. I think it is good morning for you.
It's morning here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. And we are actually, covering South Asia with 6 countries participating in this program. And programs from all the 6 countries are there, which include Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. Here to this program, this segment of South Asia for the 24-hour Global Peace Wave. First of all, my congratulations to the World Beyond Wars and to International Peace Bureau for this very imaginative program at this very appropriate time. I am sure, this. I've been following this since yesterday when it started, and it's really rolling on very well. And I hope that, after our 24 hours peace wave gets over, hopefully it will lead to a tsunami of goodwill through the world, through the globe. I would like to first start with a poem by a young person, a young lady from Sri Lanka. We start with this very poignant, very powerful poem by Aisha Ratnanayake from Sri Lanka, a country which has experienced so much war for so many decades. This shows the angst, the tragedy of war, how it divides people, how it divides families, and how it devastates relationships. We'll just go to Aisha Ratnanayake.
I lean over you. I've shot you down. Gunshots ring out, but I don't hear a sound. My brother, my brethren, my long-lost twin, a rival in war, my closest of kin. We meet in a battlefield tainted with blood. Is this our reunion? How cruel is this love? I finally found you. You've ended the quest. I stare at the blood that spills from your chest. The very same blood that runs through my veins. The blood of my brother, one and the same. I kiss your forehead and lay you down. I tell you I'm sorry, then I turn around. Lay down beside you, hold the gun to my head. Pull the trigger, and now I'm dead. Murder and suicide can't be undone. Our blood pools together and mixes as one. We were born together from the same womb, so we'll die together and share a tomb.
Yes. So we see how tragic wars can be, and this poem by this young lady, Aisha Ratnanayake, brings it out in such a tragic and powerful manner. And I hope that no one will have to face such tragedies ever. Now I would welcome and call upon Ramu Ramdas, former Chief of Indian Navy, who is there here with us. Admiral Ramdas Saab has been, served in the Indian Armed Forces for 45 years, and he is one of the legends in South Asia for trying to bring about peace in the two countries. I have known him since 1995, a year after he retired. And it was really a shock to me when I first met him in Delhi in Bombay in a meeting. I still remember when he said that it was a peace meeting for peace between India and Pakistan. And he introduced himself as Admiral Ramdas. I was shocked and I thought, what is an admiral doing in a peace meeting between India and Pakistan? But later I realized that his contribution to peace in the subcontinent has been marvelous and unparalleled. And for that, he was awarded the Raman Magsaysay Award in collaboration along with Mr. Rahman, I.A. Rahman of Pakistan. So that itself is a very big message for South Asia. And he's been in forefront of many initiatives, including he helped form soldiers, India-Pakistan the soldiers initiative. And I mean, I can go on and on, but now I think I would like to request Admiral Ramdas sir to give his message. Rather, he is going to give us the inaugural address for this program from South Asia and an invocation for peace. Ramdas sir, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Mazhar Hussain, for all your sweet words. Let me at the beginning congratulate the entire organizing team worldwide for this excellent initiative. I wish to thank you all, and I'll do a little bit of reading to make sure that I don't cross the time because I'm now getting on. I wish to thank you and all others involved in organizing this important initiative for global peace. It could not have been better timed, as the world is yet again facing a crisis of enormous dimensions. We all thought that when the Cold War ended, the world will quickly return to peace. Unfortunately, we have been disappointed in that hope, and we are witnessing a tsunami of violence all around. In South Asia, most countries are facing serious challenges regarding severe economic difficulties, primarily poverty and unemployment, with the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. We are also witness to discrimination against minorities and the virtual breakdown of the democratic processes. Now, all of this above enhances the nature and scale of potential conflict in our region. With big power geopolitical games increasing, not to forget that there are 3 nuclear-armed countries in this region, namely China, India, and Pakistan. The stakes are therefore dangerously high for our people. Having served in uniform for nearly 45 years, I'm a firm believer that wars are no solution to differences between nations and people. Wars are always glorified as necessary in order to secure peace. Nothing could be farther from the truth. My personal experience has therefore led me to advocate dialogue as an effective means of securing peace. There can be no peace without justice, and no justice without peace. This requires each one of us today to raise our voices for peace, justice, and dignity for all. So do join us in saying yes to peace and no to war. Thank you very much for all your patient hearing.
Thank you very much, Ramdas sir. An excellent invocation for South Asia and also for the rest of the world. no peace without justice and no justice without peace. I think these are very important messages for all of us. And we really are grateful to you. And I would like to acknowledge Ms. Lalita Ramdas, the partner of Admiral Ramdas Sahab, who's also here with us, and who has been an inspiration, I think, for all of us, and especially for Ramdas Sahab, who's been, doing excellent work. Thank you, Lali Appa, for this inspiration, for being such a wonderful person and such a promoter and advocate of peace. Thank you very much. And now we will move on to a new experiment that we tried. This is Colors of Peace. In that, Colors of Peace. Here, we have tried to get artists from different countries of South Asia. We have here artists from Afghanistan, Bangladesh, India, Nepal, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka. They started painting in their own countries, their expression for peace, and in solidarity with this peace wave, 24-hour peace wave that we are now having. And they have, while they were painting, they have sent across some videos of the beginning and the middle, and today they are going to, share with us the final versions, the final paintings, and also give their messages to us towards the end of this program. So we start with their initial attempts, which they are what they have started initially. This is Ahsana Haq from Bangladesh. And now we have Alpesh Patel from India. He's preparing his canvas, which we will see blossom into something very inspiring toward the end of this program. And here we have Supriya Sakya from Nepal. Her strokes in the canvas to give it a shape for peace. And that also we will see. And Muzammil Ruhil from Pakistan, he's come out with some very interesting, art, which is, computer generated. And this actually will, I'm sure it will make us spellbound towards the end when we see the final of his efforts emerging into an interesting art form. And finally, we have Kusal Gunashekara from Sri Lanka. He's also starting his work, and it is basically about the impact of war on women. It comes out very powerful, very interesting. And I'm really happy and grateful to all these young artists who have, collaborated with us and helped us in getting this together. Now, we move to the next section, to the next country, which is Afghanistan. And I would request Dr. Jill Carr Harris to take over the coordination for this particular section in the country. Jill Van, all yours.
Hello, friends. My name is Jill Carr Harris. As I mentioned before, I work with Jai Jagat, which is an international peace network, as well as Ekta Parishad in India, a Gandhian organization. And just I will speak in the next segment on India about where I am right now, because I'm in a communal harmony meeting in the southern part of India. But we'll touch upon that later. My great privilege now is to introduce some of our Afghan friends in their messages of peace. And we're going to begin with Seema Samar, who is a former minister of the government of Afghanistan. And Dr. Samar is a medical doctor, works for the poor. She's a teacher as well as she became a minister of women's affairs. And as you can appreciate in Afghanistan today, this is a very, very important history which Afghanistan has had, which is the preponderance of women in their governance, which seems under the present Taliban government to be changing. And she is also a special rapporteur on the situation of human rights in Sudan. She's a member of the advisory board for mediation and a high-level panel of displaced persons. I have the distinct pleasure of asking Dr. Seema Samar to please make your intervention. Thank you very much.
Hello, everyone.
There we go. That's perfect.
I hope you all had a good time. Thank you for including me in this program. As we all know, war and conflict is very destructive, not only destructive on the infrastructure, but also destructive on social fabric of the society. Simply, if you look at the provision of basic social services, health, education is destroyed, and the money goes mainly to the military activities rather than providing a good quality of education or good quality of health. When education system destroyed, you can see the outcome of the destructive education system is the Taliban-style regime or people in Afghanistan, because unfortunately the Afghan children was taken to those madrasas to be brainwashed under the name of education. But also the quality education is really important to build a society in the future. The destruction of the health system, you have the mother and child mortality rate is getting high. More children are born. Poverty is increased, and the young, uneducated, unemployed boys are absorbed by the terrorist groups, by the mafia groups, by the gang groups and criminal groups in every country. That can be done to any other places also. The other issue that conflict really play a very destructive role is increasing the patriarchy system in the country because of lack of security. Always men trying to control female member of the family and restrict their movement and basic human rights. So violence, domestic violence is increased, child and forced marriage are increased, and trafficking of women and children are increased, and even forced marriage, forced prostitution are increased in those communities. People are displaced either in the country or outside of the country, and then within that system, everything I said is more increased, forced marriages, child marriages, mafia groups, and more destructive groups. Because of the lack of security among the people try to find some policies or some way to survive. That's why the tension between different ethnic groups and tribes are increased, and issues of religion and people's belief are also taking most of the time, that they really try to bound to those groups that from the same religion. And people are killed under the name of their religion, unfortunately. When you want to, that superiority of the men and inferiority of the women in the family increase a lot of those inequality. Inequality itself is a reason for conflict. And it's a discrimination. Discrimination increase the conflict in a country. But when we talk of peace, peace is not the end of war. Peace is when the people live with equal rights and dignity, when people have access to basic social services, to quality education. Peace when the people has the right to participate on their political future of the country. Peace means access to justice and accountability and rule of law. Otherwise, we just fuel the culture of impunity, particularly for war crimes and crimes against humanity, as we see in Afghanistan. If there was accountability for war crimes and crimes against humanity in Afghanistan, the people would have not done it in other countries, in Ukraine, for example. So we need to stand for promotion of human rights and respect for human rights principle. That implementation of principles of human rights will be a tool for facilitating a sustainable peace with justice. So thank you very much, and I wish you a very successful program.
Thank you very much, Dr. Seema Samar, for those incredible remarks that peace does not end after war, it only ends after all these conditions of justice are achieved. Thank you very much. I want to now introduce a young man. His name is Nematullah Ahangosh, and he is a delightful person, an activist who set up his own initiative on peace, and he's also a poet. So I turn it over to you, Nematullah, to be a peon of a poetry of peace.
It's called Blue Home. Let's go up, up, up. See what's up. Beyond the blue home, let's reach a place where nothing holds. A place of no up and down, like the dreams which have no reality. Let's have 3 legs. Bound them to the blue home, beyond home, and to gamble of love. I know nothing but crisis. I was fed with war, fought the war, fed the war, lived it, and I will die with it. I keep asking, what does my fate hold? I get no answer except my own. That I should fight the other way around. The world has been cruel with guns, money, and fuel. I fight for my blue home. Keep blue and green, its front in backyards. I know our ancestors didn't care, left us with resource which is rare. I don't follow their footprints, for I believe some didn't walk on the right path. I hold new thoughts and solutions, waiting to be implemented. My footprint is small, like a tip of a matchstick that can set the whole world on fire. But I will light my flames of conscience with it. I'm doing my part. How about you? Thank you.
Nematullah, like so many brilliant young people, is currently living in India and seeking some opportunities outside of Afghanistan. And similarly, so I want to thank Nematullah for this absolutely beautiful poem. We want to turn now to My Land, which is a song by Afghan students. And these students have now become refugees in India after the Taliban takeover. And they go to the Afghanistan Embassy School in New Delhi. And this is their contribution to the peace wave. May I now ask our Afghan students to perform.
شونه به شونه گشتم عشق یگانه من از تو نشانه من بی تو نمک ندارد شیر و ترانه من سرزمین من خسته خسته از جفای سرزمین من بی سرود و بی صدای سرزمین من دردمند بی دوای سرزمین من سرزمین من کی غم تو را سرود سرزمین من کی ره تو را گشود سرزمین من کی به تو وفا نمود سرزمین من ما ستاره من رای دوباره من در همه جا نمیشه بی تو گذاره من گنج تو را بودن از بری عشرت خود قلب تو را شکسته هر کی به نوبت خود سرزمین من خسته خسته از جفای سرزمین من بی سرود و بی صدای سرزمین من دردمند بی دوای سرزمین من سرزمین من مثل چشم انتظاری سرزمین من مثل دشت پرغباری سرزمین من مثل قلب داغداری سرزمین من
I want to give a big thanks for this, excuse me for being emotional, for this amazing performance of young boys and young girls who have been displaced from their country. Special thanks goes to Kushi Nigam. She, without her support with these Afghan students who created this performance for the Peace Wave, it would not have been possible. And also to Dr. Vedabayas Kundu for his guidance and support. The embassy staff, Dr. Nazar Ahmad Yusufi, made this possible as the embassy staff member, but special thanks to the students themselves and their teachers, all of whom have brought home to us the importance of the passion of youth to give us peace messages, to force us to think about a different world. Thank you again. I am now going to turn over my hosting responsibilities to my colleague, Vijay Bharati, from the South Asia Peace Alliance, who will now move from Afghanistan to Bangladesh. Vijay Bhai.
Thank you, Dr. Jill. I think it is a great privilege to be part of the Peace Wave process. And I'm being given the response of Bangladesh. I think in Bangladesh, Shahar Kabir was to participate in this process, but unfortunately we are not having him here. But Shahar Kabir is a journalist, a documentary filmmaker, and has been very actively involved in bringing South Asians against fundamentalism and communalism. But we'll have some time later. But we have a peace message from other people from Bangladesh. Ramendu Majmundar. He is one of the leading figures in the cultural arena of Bangladesh and involved with many social, cultural, and progressive movements in the country in the post-independence Padak for his contribution to the theatre. So let's get the message from Ramendu Majumdar.
Over the ages, it has been proved that nobody wins in a war. Only violence wins and peace is defeated. That's why every culture, every religion preaches humanity and peace. For establishing peace in the world, we need to promote tolerance, respect for human rights, mutual understanding, and other human values. For sustainable economic and social development, peace is a basic requirement. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has been propagating the culture of peace in the world forums for a long time. I happen to be a former president of the International Theatre Institute, which was established in 1948 at the initiative of UNESCO in the backdrop of the devastations of the Second World War. The idea was to promote peace through mutual understanding and exchange of knowledge and experience of the theatre artists around the world. We successfully experimented one of our peace initiatives, Theatre in the Conflict Zones. We found understanding between people can bring about a big change. For our independence in 1971, we paid a heavy price in terms of sacrifice of 3 million people and wide-scale destruction of establishments. With that experience of sufferings, we have given shelter to over 1 million displaced Rohingyas from Myanmar on humanitarian consideration. The ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine has terribly upset the world. We in Bangladesh join the peace-loving people of the world in demanding immediate end of this war. Let's not forget, we can survive in this world through peace and not by violence. We only hope sanity will prevail.
Thank you, Ramendu. I think it was a very powerful message for the peace wave, how theatre can play a very important role in building the peace processes, bringing peoples and community together, building peace. Thank you, Ramendu Majumdar, for your nice message. Next, we have Rabindranath Tagore's song by Shahrukh Kabir. Shahrukh Kabir has been actively involved in Forum for Secular Bangladesh. He is a very young, versatile singer and a peace activist from Bangladesh. And since school days, he has been started singing. And I'm sure now he'll have a very powerful message for all of us, seeking one of the Nobel laureate, Rabindranath Tagore's song on peace, which he composed prior to the World War II. Let's listen to Shahrukh Kabir.
Chamukhe shanti parava bhasha taruni he kornodha tumi hobe chiro sathi ধ্রুব তারকা সম্মুখে শান্তি পারাবার ভাষা তরুণী হে কর্ণধার মুক্তিদাতা দয়া হবে চিরপাথে ও চিরযাত্রা হয় যেন মর্তের বন্ধন
Thank you, Shahrukh. I think it's a very powerful message for peace. Sailing the sea, the peace wave. I think it's a very powerful message for all of us. Moving forward, I bring in Aroma Datta. Aroma Datta is a member of parliament in Bangladesh, in the national parliament. Very active social activist, cultural activist, a journalist, a filmmaker. I think he has a very good, what we call legacy, peace. So, and being a member of parliament, let's hear her message. What Aroma Datta wants to speak to us. Aroma Datta.
Greetings from Bangladesh. I am Aroma Datta, a survivor from the War of Liberation of 1971, who have managed to escape accidentally from the Pakistani militaries from rape and torture. I'm a living example, and it is very difficult to narrate or to speak to the planet when still women and children are victims of war, the worst victims of war. Nations are into war. Why, when you are talking about a global village, peace, development, cooperation, prosperity, and still why do we have to have war? This is not part of the civilization. We claim to be civilized. We claim to be the most civilized people and who are contributing to the global development. But unfortunately, we still are talking about peace, we are talking about conflict, we are talking about war, and we have an United Nations. And United Nations still could not resolve it.
So we had a very passionate appeal and a concern from Aroma Datta. Being a parliamentarian and having a rich experience in working with the field civil rights activist, I think she expressed her concern about peace and what we all should do about it. So we thank Mr. Shair Kabir for the support for this program, Mr. Manoranjan Ghoshal, Mr. Ramendra Majmundar, in enabling us to reach out to the speakers and artists from Bangladesh. This was a presentation by the Bangladesh. Now we move further with economics of peace. May I ask Dr. Mazhar Hussain to take over?
Thank you very much, Vijay Bhai. After all these presentations on arts and song and messages and some very poignant and thought-provoking, sharing of experiences, we now move to another crux area of war and peace, that is economics. All of us know that the direct casualty of any war, militarization, is the economy. And economy doesn't just kill countries, but it really devastates the poor, the people. Nothing much happens to the rich. So I think it is very important that we also have a look at what role economies play on all these wars which are going on, and why we need to reclaim peace to ensure that we prosper as humanity as a whole. We have a very good panel here today. First of all, I would like to introduce Dr. John Drees from India. He's been an outstanding economist, an economist whose heart and soul has been with the poor and the marginalized, and he is now today speaking on the cost of militarization. I will directly present him, Dr. John Drees, and I'm sure you will find a lot of insights.
Hello, everyone. I have been asked to say a few words about the costs of militarism with special reference to India and South Asia. Militarism can be seen as the tendency to settle disputes by resorting to the use of force, or more likely, threatening the use of force. This is a very poor method of conflict resolution because the balance of military power tends to bear no relation to the merits of the case. Just to give one illustration, consider the Kashmir conflict. The balance of military power is overwhelmingly in India's favor, and this makes it possible for India to dictate its terms without any regard for the rights and interests of the people of Kashmir. The outcome is that injustice continues, and so does the conflict itself. The same can be said of similar conflicts around the world, from Palestine and Afghanistan to Sri Lanka and, of course, today, Ukraine. Seen in this light, the costs of militarism include the perpetuation of injustice because militarism deprives the weaker parties of a fair hearing. Naturally, the costs of militarism also include a colossal waste of resources in the form of public expenditure on armies and armaments. In India, military expenditure accounts for almost 3% of GDP. This may not sound like a lot, but it is more than twice as much as public expenditure on health. According to SIPRI, the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, global military expenditure almost doubled in real terms in the last 20 years and crossed $2 trillion for the first time last year. If the same resources were used to fight poverty and hunger around the world, they could work wonders. Perhaps the biggest cost of militarism, however, is insecurity. Military power creates an illusion of security, but when all sides pursue military power, the result is a dangerous arms race. The nuclear arms race, which is still in full swing, is particularly dangerous because nuclear weapons are so destructive and so difficult to control. Nobody really knows how to handle nuclear threats of the sort that were made at the time of the Cuba Missile Crisis in 1962 and may be made again soon in the context of the war in Ukraine. There is no rational way of handling nuclear threats. It is basically a war of nerves. Nuclear weapons are almost bound to be used sooner or later, like all the weapons that have been invented so far, unless we get rid of them once and for all. The persistence of militarism around the world is associated with the continued influence of the so-called realist school of thought. According to realists, a national government should use its power to pursue its self-interest, assuming that others are doing the same. Realists consider the advocates of peace and cooperation as idealistic peaceniks and delusional people, but the fact is that this so-called realism is leading the world to collective suicide, whether it is through nuclear war or climate change. Cooperation is not only possible, it is the only way forward if humanity is to survive. In order for a world order based on peace and cooperation to be possible, something must be done, of course, to reduce power imbalances between different countries. Disarmament is not sufficient for that purpose, but it would be a good start. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. John Drees. Nothing could have been more comprehensive. And if even after listening to you, if people cannot be convinced about the stupidity of militarization and continue to spend on wars, I think there is hardly anything that can save humanity. But we don't have to lose heart. I'm sure there are many people who are listening to you, who are getting impacted by you, and even people from the armed forces, from the military backgrounds, are also getting now slowly converted to become peaceniks. Not only that, but we have seen in the case of Admiral Ramdas, former Chief of Indian Navy, he has now become the doyen of peace in South Asia. We now present to you another person from Bangladesh who's been in the armed forces and who's now swearing by economy for peace. And Bangladesh, I think, is a very solid example for all of us to follow how if you focus more on social development and less on defense spending, how the country can get transformed. We now have General Sikdar making his presentation on peace,
Good afternoon
economy.
to everybody from Bangladesh. Thank you, the organizers, for including me in the panel. I shall discuss the issue economics of peace as related to Bangladesh. The motto of Bangladesh is peace, harmony and development. The national concept is that the poverty is the biggest threat to peace and biggest enemy to humanity. So, in pursuing the goal of poverty reduction, yearly budgetary allocations are made accordingly, giving priority in that the highest allocation goes to education and human resource development, almost 32% of total budget. In the same way, second highest goes to overall communication sector. Third is social security sector for downtrodden people. And fourth is agriculture and rural development. Fifth is the defense, though only 5.9% of total budget. In social security networks, 112 categories of marginalized people, about 10 millions of them, are given monthly cash allowances to support their livelihood. Government provide big subsidies to various sectors amounting almost $12 billion per year. For last 12 years, yearly poverty reduction rate is from 1.4 to 1.6%. 20% of total population, about 30 million people, are brought up over poverty line in last 12 years. Almost all villages are connected by Pakka road networks. 98% people are connected by electricity. 80% people are using standard sanitary system. 80% maternity delivery are taking place in hospital and clinic. Only yesterday, 25th June, 6.15 kilometer long road and rail bridge is inaugurated over the mighty river Padma, spending $3.3 billion. It will add 1.2% growth to our economy yearly. It will facilitate regional and trans-regional connectivity. Bangladesh is committed to no war national policy. Defense expenditure is moderate. Yearly budget allocation not more than 1.6% of the GDP. But armed forces of Bangladesh are developing with other sectors. Defense policy is totally defensive. We have exemplary relation with India, with whom we share 90% land borders. Internal political situation is quite stable and peaceful. Now about challenges. The number one challenge is that still about 30 million people are living under poverty line. Bring them up is the biggest challenge at this point of time. Second challenge is political. That is, religious extremism are rising gradually. That is all from me. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, General Sikdarji. Really appreciate and really grateful to you for bringing out all these very important facts and statistics. The most, I think, moving statement from you about Bangladesh, the policy of Bangladesh is about no war national policy. How I wish every nation, every country in the world can adopt this. And another major learning one can have from Bangladesh is about the allocations. I'm really amazed how you have inverted the pyramid. In all other countries, even in India and Pakistan, we spend mostly on budget and very little for education. And here you have allocation for education 32% and for defense only 5%. Kudos to you. A big clap to your country and to its approach. Really appreciate. And I think you are an example for the world we all have to follow. Now, next, we would like to go to a country which has really suffered devastations of war, not because of any fault of its own, but because of all the external factors from all over the world pouncing on it like vultures and leaving it almost dead. The country which I'm talking about is Afghanistan, and from there we have Dr. B. Ramesh, who is an Afghani economist who is now shifted to India as a refugee, and he's working living in India, and he is going to make a presentation on peace, dividends of peace, and how his own country has suffered from war, and how democracy and peace can save not only his country but also all of us across the globe. I am taking this privilege to present Mr. B. Ramesh of Afghanistan, an economist from Afghanistan.
Good morning, good afternoon, Afghanistan, India, and all respected persons from different countries. And thank you for inviting me in this program. In fact, I wish to very briefly discuss about impact of democracy and peace on economic development, especially in Afghanistan. By a research in Afghanistan and a study of cross-country, I observed that there is a relationship between democracy, peace, and economic development. In fact, the war took place because nation, state government are controlled by big corporations. The weapon-making companies want war, tourism, and conflict. The oil and gas companies want to capture resources and market. Hence pursued the government to engage in war. The imperialism is not dead. Still some countries want to make others as their colonies. Some politicians see war as a solution to divert the attention of public from local problem. Nationalism, nation boundaries, armies, weapons are hurdle in globalization and flow of labor. There is no need for such things to increase internationalism. In fact, in Afghanistan, the governments should respect and accept democracy. There is urgent need of education support in Afghanistan. We observe that the ethnic group of Afghanistan are divided lot who need to be united to make a strong democracy and peace in Afghanistan. Unfortunately, we feel that the nation of Afghanistan, they really want peace, but unfortunately, we feel that there is always negative externalities of some other countries or maybe some companies. The existence of a free press is the most important pillar of democracy. A state should allow the foreign media and news channel to work in the country with safety security of them, and especially for reporters. In fact, the nation of Afghanistan, male and females, all deserve a peace for coming days, the same as other nations. The nation of Afghanistan believes in education, believes in democracy, and we hope that international level take a good decision about the current situation of Afghanistan. Previously talk, democracy was in Afghanistan, but peace was not in Afghanistan. But if we talk currently, a little bit maybe peace is in Afghanistan, but not full. But we lost democracy. In fact, we need democracy and peace both to have an economic development in Afghanistan. Let's have a wish and work for a long run for peace in every nation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bahram Rameshji. Really appreciate and really grateful to you for bringing out in such clear terms the relation between democracy and peace, and how it is important for development. We are all with you, with your country, and we do hope that after so many years of war and devastation, and as you have rightly pointed out, negative external influences, nothing from within the country. We hope that, peace and stability and development will soon find home again in Afghanistan. We had heard so much about Afghanistan, and we hope and wish Afghanistan goes back to its glorious days again. And now we would like to take you to the next section, which is, we had seen in the beginning of the program, our artists starting to paint colors of peace. And now those colors of peace are blossoming, and we will see how they are blossoming. They are in the middle of their efforts. They are in the middle of the painting. We'll just see the progress of their paintings now. So you see, this is work in progress. This is Ehsana Nasreen of Bangladesh. This is the way her painting is taking shape. At the end, she will talk about this painting and what she wants to communicate through this for peace. We have here Alpesh. He is showing us his painting. Then now we come to Supriya Sakya of Nepal. She has got a very interesting painting here, and it's developing now. And I'm sure at the end of this, towards the end of this program, when she explains the painting to you, you will all be impressed by her concept of peace. We go now to Muzammil Ruhail. It's, as we had mentioned earlier, it is computer art, and he's really been very, very creative, extreme genius, I would say, in this format. And he's using this to come out with some expressions and with some creations which really steal our heart. And finally, we come to the Dr. Kusal Gunachekara. As I had mentioned, he is now working, in the middle of his paintings about impact of war and violence and conflict on women. And as he comes from Sri Lanka, his experience about the conflict for over 3 decades there is something. This painting comes from his heart and from his soul, and it reflects the sufferings of the people of Sri Lanka. Now we move on to the next section. We come to India, and I request Jill Ben, Dr. Jill Carr Harris, to take this session forward. Jill Ben, India is yours.
Thank you. Thank you, Mazhar, for this excellent session you just managed. We're going to now turn to India, friends, and I want to tell you that I'm here in Kerala, southern state of India, and this is a place where many students have recently come back from studying in Ukraine and have brought back heartbreaking stories of war. And I think many of them, in our discussions with them, are beginning to say no to war, which is really, really important. We're also sitting in a small town in Kerala called Palghat. Palghat is in the west, near the Western Ghats. And in this city today, I have just left a all-day fast today, where we're fasting for communal harmony. What is happening in this small town, which has always been peaceful, it has become racked by communal violence between two communities. And we are so interested to join hands with all of those people in Kerala, in Palghat, to call for peace. I think I should just add, after that wonderful session Mazhar conducted on the economics of peace, that we have to see that this communal disharmony is related to a lack of various economic factors like unemployment among youth, climatic factors where the coastal areas are increasingly under threat, and many social issues that are creating this communal violence. This is why we have to not only say no to war, we need to say no to a war economy. We are so delighted by the Bangladesh example, where they have said that their policy should be geared to development and not building up military arsenals. So I think what we're going to do now is give you a presentation of, unfortunately, he's in the fast just next door where I am, Mr. P.V. Rajagopal. P.V. Rajagopal is a Gandhian leader, so he's made a short video for you. But to give a very quick introduction, he has been building up nonviolent social movements, primarily among the poor, in the spirit of reaching a vision where no one is left behind, what we call Sarvodaya. Everybody should be included in development. And this is, if this gets achieved, then the communal violence, which he is now protesting or sitting on fast with 150 other people right now next door to where I'm sitting, that would need not take place. But because we have these conditions, it has. So Rajagopal, a founder, architect of Ekta Parishad and Jai Jagat, two of the organizations I also work in, and has brought an amazing interest to thousands of youth to see how to build a development non-violently and not through competition and through an economics of inequity, sustainability, and non-cooperating, where people are not cooperating. So here is Dr. P.V. Rajagopal's presentation.
First of all, let me thank Jill for introducing me and asking me to speak. I'm very happy that the Peace Wave program is picking up well. Large number of people are getting involved in this Peace Wave program because people really want peace. And that is why people are devoting their time to promote peace. Speaking from India, I am very proud that we have a heritage of peace and non-violence. This comes from Buddha, and after Buddha, Gandhi took it seriously. And during the freedom struggle, while Gandhi was very keen to get India free, but he was also very keen that people should learn non-violence. There are incidents in Indian history when the agitation went violent. Gandhiji decided to call it off and said freedom can wait, but people need to learn non-violence because they need to live in a non-violent society even after you become free. So we are very proud of this heritage, and I think Indians should in fact help the world to understand the value of peace and non-violence, because many other countries may be very good in technology, very good in computer science, but I think India, because of its history of Buddha and Mahavir Swami and Mahatma Gandhi, we need to be proud of what we have. And world is in need of these lessons. You know, in every country where there is conflict and violence, they look towards India because they think this is the country of Buddha and Gandhi, and probably we will be able to offer a solution to conflict and violence. So let us work towards it, and that decision need to come from the people of India, that this is a contribution, this is a gift that we can make to the world at large. In the recent past, we had some very serious setback globally. The war on Ukraine is one such thing. We were working in the region, the Caucasian region, thinking that that region can become a peace zone. And this war has brought difficulties in terms of promoting this idea of a peace zone in the Caucasian region. At the same time, we can be happy what is happening in Colombia is that a person who led an underground movement has now become the president, and the society can now transform into a peaceful society. That is what I believe. So let us all take this Peace Wave program very seriously, and creating a peace wave across the world, and creating a world that is full of justice and peace and non-violence for the generations to come will be a very important responsibility on our shoulder. And I hope through such programs like Peace Wave, we will take that responsibility seriously, and we will understand our heritage and work towards promoting a just world that is full of peace and non-violence, so that people can live, coexist on this world happily. So thank you very much for this program, and I hope this is going to be a great success. Thank you very much.
Thanks to Rajagopal for this message. I want to now turn to a very interesting woman, Khushi Nigam, who's a student of Delhi University, proficient in many languages. And she translated a poem by not translated, she's going to recite a poem by Sayyida Rumana Mehdi of Pakistan. And what more beautiful way to describe India, as Rajagopal said, is to see India in its small instances of nonviolence and peace. So over to the team, over to Kushi Nigam in her recitation of this beautiful poem, which is dedicated to the peace of India and Pakistan.
There is a thirst for revenge and there is a desire to kill. But at the same time, there is also a wish for peace. There is a yearning to end all this war without shedding any more blood. And there is a passion to save the lives without losing any more. There is a dream to start life anew with the tales of happiness and with the laws of forgiveness. Throw a rock at me, hit me, and I won't hit you back, for I will give you a second chance to redeem yourself of these sinful acts. I have embarked on a journey, the journey of Mahatma Gandhi, the voyage of Nelson Mandela, and I simply seek forgiveness and I simply seek to forget. Come with me, not with your arms or your artilleries, but simply with your sinful heart, and we will cleanse it together, cleanse it of all of its filth and dirt. Your body is just as pure as mine. Your blood is every drop as precious as mine. No heart deserves to be broken, for all of our hearts beat to the same rhythm. There is no place for hatred, there is no place for vengeance, and there is no place for losing humanity, but there is a place to find ourselves. Today, I call out to all the killers who perpetuate genocides. I call out to all the potential killers who might kill me for all that I have to say today. Today, I also call out to all the scholars and practitioners of non-violence who saw Mandela 27 years behind his prison bars, who saw Gandhi give up his life to stick by his principles, who saw Martin Luther King's dream in their own eyes, and who stood with Rosa Parks when Rosa Parks refused to stand up. Today, let us come together, dear friends, to create power, to create a positive force, to create a healing potion, and to create a spell binded together with the blessing of non-violence and love. Thank you.
We thank you for this beautiful blessing of non-violence and love. I want to now turn to a very difficult subject, which is the role of the media in war reporting and how it creates often different kinds of manipulations on the minds of the readers or the viewers. The next speaker is Seema Mustafa. Seema is the president of the Editors Guild of India, a very senior position. She's been been a journalist in the Indian Express, Economic Times, Telegraph, basically many of the main newspapers in India. And she's covered conflicts in India and in Asia. And so it gives me great pleasure to ask Seema Mustafa to please provide some insight into this area of concern.
Hi. Well, media is not manipulated. Media allows itself to be manipulated to a point now where it feeds wars, it advocates war, it insists on war. War and not peace has become the tenet of the new media across the world that has chosen to be driven by the rich and the powerful, by advertisements and TRP ratings, by crony capitalism. And along the way has rejected the constituency of the poor and the marginalized, of peace and unity, of harmony and amity, and in the process become part of governments and the establishment and have stopped being the messenger, carrying the voices of the people to the corridors of power, of bringing truth to power. The media, driven by the notion of nationalism, has converted conflict and war into a us and them syndrome. So in Iraq, embedded journalists drove into the country atop American tanks, the conquering heroes, along with the US Army. There was no attempt at all to bring out the horrors of war, to raise questions about the legitimacy of war and the invasion of a small sovereign country. As the entire media covering the initial days went into overdrive to legitimize and justify war over peace. Governments support this kind of media that justifies their most blatant and unjust actions. Governments want a media that they can control, that allows injustice to take place through skillful manipulation of the news, and that justifies government policies regardless of the suffering and the agony these invoke. Unfortunately, over the years and decades, journalists have lost sight of why journalism exists, of our commitment to a better world of equality and peace, and intolerance for government, nationalist or not, that violates the basic universal principles. We have forgotten that there are no two sides to a war. There is only one side, peace.
I want to thank Seema for such a profound presentation on how media is manipulated in its presentation of war. Now, I'm going to end this section of India and turn now to a South Asian ensemble, where again we are weaving together narratives of South Asia and showing in this peace wave actual cooperation as we do these presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to our dear Dr. Mazhar Hussain to take this section of the program.
Thank you very much, Jilben. A very good section. I think we really got a lot of insights from Rajgopalji and from Seema, and also I was very touched by a Pakistani young person's poem being read out by an Indian. Nothing can bring out the unity and the love between different countries, especially between India and Pakistan. And now, as you said, we move over to South Asian ensemble, where we have got some young artists from 5 different countries of South Asia coming together to read and immerse us in one single story. The story is by a legend from South Asia, Saadat Hasan Manto. He has written many short stories which really transform your thoughts and your feelings and thinking on a variety of issues. And this one is about war. More about the people who are reading this, the artists who are reading this. But let me tell you, that after you go through this story, you will realize the absolute absurdity of war. Here we have presenting to you Saadat Hasan Manto's The Last Salute, being narrated by 5 artists from 5 countries of South Asia. The Last Salute.
Subedar Rab Nawaz understood one thing. They were fighting to win Kashmir. Why did they need to win Kashmir? Its annexation was vital for the survival of Pakistan. But as he took aim to shoot, and a familiar face appeared on the opposite side, he forgot for a moment why they were fighting, why he had lifted his gun and aimed. Whereas before, they had fought together against a common enemy, whom they had merely imagined to be their enemy for the sake of their stomachs and rewards and recognition. Now they had themselves split into two groups. They were no longer Indian soldiers, but Indian and Pakistani soldiers. The thought that there were still Muslim soldiers back in India flummoxed his mind, and when he thought about Kashmir, his mind became even more muddled. It just refused to think farther.
The battle for control over the road that led from Muzaffarabad to Kiran had been raging along the banks of the Kishanganga for some time. It was a strange battle. At night, rather than the sound of bullets, a crescendo of abuses, each one smuttier than the last, rose from the neighboring hills. At first, when he heard the provocative insults, Rab Nawaz thought of throwing himself headlong into the fray, but decided to hold back. His men could not hold back for very long. Soon they had had enough and began returning the enemy's noxious abuse with their own equally insulting invectives at the top of their lungs. It was a peculiar battle for Subedar Rab Nawaz. He tried a few times to restrain his men, but profanities got so vicious, it wasn't possible to hold back.
On the hill occupied by the Subedars' contingent, the slope provided no cover, as it was completely without trees or bush. It was obvious the attack would be quite hazardous, but his men, chomping at the bit to get even for the blustering obscenities hurled at them, were more than willing to go for it anyway. As it turned out, they were successful. Their losses included 2 men dead and 4 wounded. The enemy lost 3 men and the rest took their heels, leaving their provisions behind. Firing continued for a while. Eventually, he ordered his men to save their ammunition and shot only when the enemy made a move and was exposed. Just then, he noticed his naked body and muttered under his breath, "God damn it! Without the clothes, a man looked like an animal."
Brought the binoculars to his eyes and peered through them again. He couldn't see anyone in the sparse, swaying vegetation on the hill. He cupped his hands round his mouth again and bled. "Who is it?" "This is Rab Nawaz. Rab Nawaz." And this Rab Nawaz also kept bouncing off the rocks. "Pig's ass," he muttered again. Instantly, a voice boomed. "It's me. It's Ram Singh." Rab Nawaz jumped as if he wanted to leap over to the other side right away. "Ram Singh?" he first said to himself, and then he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Ram Singha! Hey you, Ram Singh, pig's ass!" Before Pig's ass had time to crash against the hills and disappear altogether, Ram Singh's cracking voice shot up. "You potter's ass!"
Rab Nawaz was a potter by caste. His blood boiled whenever anyone even vaguely hinted at his origins. Only with Ram Singh, it was different. Rab Nawaz didn't let it get on his nerves with him because Ram Singh was a special chum of his. They had grown up in the same village and were born only a few days apart. Not just their fathers, even their grandfathers had enjoyed close, friendly ties. Rab Nawaz and Ram Singh had gone to the same primary school and enlisted in the army on the same day. In the last Great War, they had fought side by side on several fronts. Ram Singh's loud laugh shot through the air. Rup Nawaz had his gun aimed in the direction of the enemy and let it go off playfully. A scream tore through the air. He quickly peered into the binoculars and saw a man rise and hobble out from behind the stone bulwark, doubled over. Holding his stomach, the man crumbled to the ground after going a short distance. It was Ram Singh. Ram Singh was lying on the rocky ground in a pool of blood, groaning. He had been hit in the stomach. A gleam appeared in his eyes when he saw Rup Nawaz. Smiling, he said, "You potter's ass, you did this! Whatever for?" Rup Nawaz felt as if he was the one who had been shot in the stomach and was now writhing in agony. He smiled, bent over Ram Singh, and started to unfasten his belt. "Pig's ass! Who asked you to stand up?" As his belt was loosened, Ram Singh cried out from intensity of the pain. Rup Nawaz examined the wound. It was nasty. Ram Singh pressed Rup Nawaz.
And then he went down the memory lane, talking about their childhood, their village, stories of their school time, their time in 6x9 Jat Regiment, jokes about their commanding officers and their affairs with strange women in the foreign lands. And during one lucid moment, he asked Rup Nawaz, "Yaar, tell me honestly, do you people really want Kashmir?" Rup Nawaz replied in all earnestness, "Yes, Ram Singha, we do." "No, I can't believe it. I think you people have been taken for a ride." "No, I think it's you people who've been taken for a ride," Rup Nawaz said emphatically to convince him. Major Aslam, the platoon commander, came with some of his soldiers a little before sundown, but there was no medic with him. Floating between semi-consciousness and throes of death, Ram Singh was babbling about something, but his voice was so weak and broken that it was difficult to make out his words. Major Aslam, who had also been part of 6x9 Jat Regiment, knew Ram Singh quite well. He had Rup Nawaz tell him all the details about what had transpired, and then he called out, "Ram Singh! Ram Singh!" Ram Singh looked at him and came to attention, still lying on the ground. And with great difficulty, he raised his arm and saluted. For a moment, he looked at Major Aslam closely, and then his rigid arm fell limply to his side. And then he started to murmur in visible irritation, "Oh, Ram Singh, you pig's balls, you forgot this is a war, a war." But he could not finish. With his slowly closing eyes, he looked at Rup Nawaz with bewilderment. And then he turned cold.
This is a story which was written by Saadat Hasan Manto around the first war of Kashmir. It was fought for Kashmir between India and Pakistan in 1948, where we find that two friends from the same village growing up together find themselves, when the Indian army got divided into Indian army and Pakistani army, they found themselves on other side, and one ended up killing the other. Earlier, when we started this program, we saw the story, a very powerful poem rather, by Aisha Ratanayak of Sri Lanka, where we find that twins are there on the other side, opposite side of each other in conflict. Both these bring out not only the absurdity, but also the cruelty and the foolishness of war and conflict. And I think despite all these examples, despite all these illustrations, I think we all continue our foolishness. I wonder when we will come out of this, but I would like to acknowledge and thank these youngsters who have read these story together, coming from different countries. From Bangladesh, we have Samina, and then from India we have got Deepika Mahidara. From Afghanistan, a school student, Fatima Fagnat, and then from India, another school student, Arnab Maturi, and from Sri Lanka, Ramalka Kasige, and from Pakistan, finally, Umar Bhatti. Thank you all for making this possible, for coming together, and we hope that your sentiments and your statements and your narration will bring South Asia also together in the near future. Now, I would like to request Vijay Bhartiya ji, Vijay Bhai, to take us to Nepal. Vijay Bhai.
Yeah, I think this South Asian ensemble is a powerful example of the peace wave of bringing South Asian young people together. And I think we should continue with this idea of a South Asia ensemble every month, where young people from South Asia come together and collaborate and do something together. It's a very good idea. We should take forward this. Moving forward, we have Nepal. From Nepal, we have Chief Election Commissioner, former Chief Election Commissioner, Upreti. Upreti with us. So can we have a message from him?
Namaskar. This is Neelkant Upreti, former Chief Election Commissioner of Nepal. At the outset, I would like to extend my appreciation to COBA as a peace network for organizing a 24 hours global peace wave and choosing me to speak on such an important issue, which I reckon must be of highest priority in the present world. I would also like to bring here a historical perspective that one of the heads of the state of Nepal had judiciously proposed Nepal as a zone of peace in the year 1975. Nepal's proposition of the zone of peace was endorsed by over 116 countries indeed of the world, and comprehensively the intention was to give a new dimension to the non-alignment policy of Nepal. It was well thought that we, Nepali, genuinely desire peace, not only in Nepal, but also in our region and elsewhere in the world. We believe that peace lies at the very root of human progress, development, and happiness. Syndromes of hunger for peace and syndrome of hunger for power are conflicting. And syndrome of hunger for power, inequalities in the distribution of resources, and the absence of good governance drags societies and countries into chaotic situation. We have seen and also have been experiencing that home-born conflict have turned into civil war.
That was, I think, a wonderful message from Upreti. Upreti's contribution has been in Nepal and also in the international place. In Afghanistan, he played a very important role in election management, and also he is awarded several medals. And his message for peace, that Nepal becomes a peace zone, the vision of the people of the Nepal, I think that should be carried forward further. In this attempt, in this process, I think in the peace wave, Moja helped us in reaching out to the participants. We're thankful to him. And now moving forward, I think we move to Pakistan and hand over to Mazhar Bhai.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vijay Bhai. Now, Pakistan means a lot of things to a lot of people. To me also, it means a lot of things and it means a lot. But I think one of the very fine things about Pakistan is that it is also the land of the sublime and of arts. Here, first, we would like to start our presentation of Pakistan with an art form, art as a protest, by Tehreek-e-Niswan, a pioneering, very, very important, well-known organization of Pakistan, which is founded and led by Shima Kirmani. Now, be present before you, and when you see that, you will realize how powerful art can be as a form of protest.
I'm Shima Kirmani from Karachi, Pakistan. I'm very glad to know that Global Peace Wave is taking place, and I'm very happy to be sharing my recording of a small choreography that I had done some time back. Basically, it's an anti-war piece, and I had done this as solidarity with the Palestinian Liberation Movement.
O Jerusalem, the fragrance of prophets, the shortest path between earth and sky, my town, the town of peace and olives. O Jerusalem, O Jerusalem.
This was such a powerful, and it can go on. Now we quickly move on to the next program or message. We have generals and admirals of war. We have now today generals and admirals of peace. We are very happy to present to you a message from a Pakistani general, General Humayun Bangash.
I'm happy to learn about the Zoom program being arranged by Global Peace Wave through the efforts of Mr. Mazhar to promote peace and cooperation and say no to war. The disastrous effects of COVID pandemic have been accentuated by the conflict in Ukraine, which has burdened the weaker economies of poor countries and has put the people in extreme difficult positions. There is a need to put an end to this conflict forthwith so that the essential supply of energy and foodstuff can be restored in order to bring the sufferings of the poor people to an end. Indo-Pakistan relations in the last years have also been a great cause of concern for us. There is a need for us to put pressure on our governments to adopt policies and measures which bring benefit to the common man rather than harping on our old conflicts. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General Saab, and also to Shima Kirmani and the team. The class and culture of Pakistan reaches its pinnacle in Ajoka Theatre that was founded by the late legendary Madiha Gohar and Shahid Nadeem. Ajoka is dedicated to social theatrical stage productions to promote a democratic and egalitarian society. Today, Ajoka is presenting a production titled From the Prison Window, based on a poem by the legendary Faiz Ahmad Faiz, when he was imprisoned for his struggle for democracy in Pakistan.
इश्क पोशीदा
At the beginning of the program, we had seen 5 artists from 5 South Asian countries starting the work on colors of peace. The artists are Ahsana Angona from Bangladesh, Alpesh Patel from India, Supriya Shakia from Nepal, Muzammil Rohil from Pakistan, and Kusal Gunasekara from Sri Lanka. Then we had glimpses of the blossoming of the works by each artist during the middle of this program. And now their efforts have borne fruits and their paintings are ready. Let us listen to the artists now about what they have created and their message to the 24-hour global peace wave. This is Ahsana Angona from Bangladesh.
I've tried to portray my thinking into the painting by drawing a Buddha, a face of Buddha, so that people can see the calmness in his face. This calmness in his face, there's peace in him. So I've tried to symbolize that with my own culture. Thank you.
Let's now hear Alpesh Patel from India.
मैंने अपने काम के अंदर ये कोशिश की है कि हर एक इंसान को अपने अंदर का एक बचपना और प्यार जिंदा रखना चाहिए, क्योंकि बच्चे हमेशा प्यार पाने की कोशिश करते हैं और ये चीज़ अगर हम एक बड़े इंसान समझ गए तो हर एक जगह पे प्यार बांटने की कोशिश शुरू हो जाएगी, एक दूसरे से दुश्मनी भी मिट जाएगी.
Supriya Shakia from Nepal.
Hi, my name is Supriya and I'm from Nepal and I'm here to present my work Fire and Olives. The olives here represent peace, just as how a dove holding an olive plant in its mouth represents peace. Likewise, the fire represents war or rebellion. Both have a similar source of origin, that is dissatisfaction. A rebellious fire may be helpful to us in some ways, like cooking, but a wrathful fire is never helpful and can be devastating and can even take lives. In this artwork, the fire tries to engulf the olives that aren't burning, showing that war may be done in the want of peace, but no war can result in peace. Thank you.
Muzammil Rohil's genius with computer art. Kusal Gunasekara's crying colors for the suffering of the women of his country with the 30-year war.
Hello friends, I am Kusal Gunasekara. I am a fine artist. Let me explain my theme of the artwork. The memories of all those who fell prey to the decades-long civil war and the 2 youth uprising against the government in our country will inevitably creep up and live in the hearts of their families after the disappearance of loved one in the families due to this crisis situation. When woman often tends to fill the present gap of that person. She is forced to continue the economic, social and cultural role of the lost person while maintaining her identity in the society.
Seen the promise of young artists from the subcontinent and their powerful expressions for peace in their own different creative ways. Our sincere gratitude to them individually for this partnership that has taken the global peace wave to a new dimension. I would like to request Dilben to take us to Sri Lanka.
Thank you.
Dilben.
Thank you, Mazhar. Just before I introduce Radhika, and I'll do it briefly because we have very little time left in this program, but Sri Lanka is going through an immense crisis of hardship and rampant inflation, food insecurity, social unrest. So part of our problem was to get people to come online. So this is something which I just wanted the audience to know. But now I have the pleasure of introducing Radhika Kumaraswamy. She is a very well-known personality, former Undersecretary General of the United Nations, and has done huge amount of work in the UN as a special rapporteur for children and armed conflict, and other UN, prestigious UN positions. She's basically a lawyer. Her main areas of work have been violence against women, housing, human rights, and so on. So please let us turn to the message of peace on behalf of the people of Sri Lanka by Radhika Kumaraswamy.
My name is Radhika Kumaraswamy, and I bring a message of peace from Sri Lanka. Today in Sri Lanka, we are facing the gravest economic crisis of our lifetime. We have problems finding fuel, food, gas, and health products. Everyday life has become a matter of survival. The most vulnerable of us suffer enormously. Our children are being denied education, and our young people the right to work. And yet, as people's movements come forward to protest and organize, we see a ray of hope. Young people have come to the fore. They have taken the lead. They unite us across ethnicity, class, gender, and religion. They commit us to democracy and to protect our environment. In them, we see a new tomorrow. Let their spirit spread across South Asia and through it to the world. May we live and may we work toward a world where there is peace, equality, and freedom. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this very powerful message, Radhika. Now have the honor of some reflections by Mr. Karamat Ali on South Asia, the wars within. Mr. Karamat Ali is a leading trade union and peace activist from Pakistan. But above all, he transcends all national boundaries and has become a South Asian in his concerns, ideology, and actions. If there is a union of South Asia, he will be the president. Requesting Karamat Bhai to speak on South Asia, the wars within.
Thank you, Mazhar Hussain Bhai. I am so grateful for this opportunity that you have afforded me to talk about our common problem in the South Asian region, especially relating to conflicts and war. Wars have plagued humanity through history and across the world. but South Asia is perhaps singular in experiencing wars resulting from every conceivable conflict. Religion, language, ethnicity, majoritarianism, or plain sectarian differences. Religious conflicts resulted in partition and creation of India and Pakistan, leading to displacement and massacre of millions. The aftershocks and damage continues to this day. In fact, religious conflicts are endemic in all countries of South Asia and increasing at an alarming rate, making the region highly vulnerable to communal violence. Rarely one has seen conflict over language leading to the creation of an entire country. South Asia has, as Bangladesh, a product of linguistic conflict, and languages in all countries continue to lead to exclusion and discrimination on a daily basis in all countries of South Asia. Ethnicity has also seen a 30 years war in Sri Lanka, and ethnic differences of different types continue to take a heavy toll in most South Asian countries. In most South Asian societies. Even when all have the same religion, language, and ethnicity, South Asians can still create ways to fight through some petty sectarian differences. Tiny Maldives will show you how. And of course, Afghanistan takes the cake for paying a very heavy price for every conflict possible, religious, ethnic, linguistic, or sectarian. While the rest of the world is worried about wars with others, South Asia is plagued by the wars within on every possible pretext, on a daily basis, and with no remorse. It is clear we have to reboot mindset and frameworks for social inclusion across South Asia to make it conflict-free and enable it to realize its full growth potential that is otherwise guaranteed by the natural resources available in abundance. Thank you very much, and good luck for this effort to bring all the South Asian people back to a joint discussion on what has happened, because we have lost the impetus of SAARC, which was developing quite well before 2016, when the summit was postponed for whatever reason. And I pray that with our efforts, we can restart the process of developing SAARC as a coherent regional entity and free of conflict and taking their people out of dire poverty, misery, and everything else. Thank you very much, Mother Bhai, for organizing this. Thanks a lot.
Now I would like to bring in a perspective from South Asia, creating a Union of South Asia by Beena Sarwar, a leading activist from South Asia, a journalist, and who has been working for peace in South Asia for the past 3 decades.
Thank you, Mazhar Hussain, for the invitation to join this amazing event, this global peace wave that started yesterday at 2 p.m. in Ireland and will conclude tomorrow at 4 p.m. in Ukraine. Thank you, Dr. Jill Carr-Harris, for the kind introduction. It is an honor and a delight to be here with you and so many other like-minded comrades. The theme, No to War, Yes to Cooperation, is something that many participants of this event have been working on for years, if not decades. The idea of crafting a union for South Asia has been around since at least the 1990s, when I first heard of the concept from a giant among peacemakers, or peacemongers as we call them, Dr. Mubashir Hassan in Lahore, one-time finance minister of Pakistan and a hawk turned dove. it makes total economic sense for the countries of this geographical unit to prioritize trade with each other rather than going via the Middle East or any other area. We could save billions of dollars and generate billions of jobs if we did that. The one nation that has borders with most others in the region is India, and it is the India-Pakistan relationship that holds the region hostage. There is no point in pointing fingers and blaming one or the other side. Both need to accept responsibility for their misdeeds and make dialogue uninterrupted and uninterruptible, to quote Manishankar Iyer. Without talking, there is no moving forward. For the dream to become a reality, we need to continue the struggle in multi-pronged ways, track 2 initiatives, pressures on government, multiple organizations working together to take it forward, popularizing the narrative on the ground through the media, study circles, and any other means possible. It is with this in mind that some of us got together last year to launch the South Asia Peace Action Network, or SAPAN as we call it, www.southasiapeace.com. SAPAN reiterates the commitment to take forward the principles and ideals of peace, justice, democracy, and human rights articulated by many of the visionaries who worked in this region. A visa-free South Asia, or a confederation of nations with soft borders, like the EU. A nation or a region in which each nation ensures quality education, justice, freedom of expression, and religion to its own citizens, as well as support and solidarity to others in other nations. We aim to reclaim South Asia, to quote another of our mentors and visionaries, the late A.R. Rahman. We support the objectives of SAARC, the South Asia Regional Association for Regional Cooperation, which include to promote the welfare of the peoples of South Asia and improve their quality of life, to accelerate economic growth, social progress, and cultural development in the region, and to provide in all individuals the opportunity to live in dignity and realize their full potential.
So thank you very much, Beena, for this lucid and very clear articulation of South Asia, Union for South Asia. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank everybody on behalf of all of us here, and congratulations again to the organizers, especially World Without Wars and Peace Bureau, International Bureau for Peace. We end with a song inspiring song by 2 Rohingya refugee girls from India. Bye from now, bye from me here, and please listen to this very inspiring song by the Rohingya refugee girls in India.
Great. Thank you so much to everyone who was involved in section 10 out of our 12 segments of the peace movement. We really appreciate all the great efforts that you put in. Apologize that we had to rush you a little bit at the end here, but we do need to move right along now to our next segment of the Peace Wave, segment 11. So I just really need to quickly announce we are ending the recording and the live streaming, and we will restart both of those immediately. If you are watching on one of our online live streams, you should just have to refresh the page and you'll be able to find the new video starting in just a second. Thank you very much, and we'll get started in just 1 second.